Yeah, I'm ready.
Roll. Well, good morning, everyone. My name's Joe Webster. I'm a surprise pinch hitter this morning for Chairwoman Carol Hill Evans, who's out sick. I want to start by saying I hope she'll join us virtually. That may happen, and that she's well quickly. And we see her back here in the great Capitol building in Harrisburg. I will now call the House State Government Committee to order. Sonia, will you please take the roll?
Chairwoman Hill Evans. Representative Boyd.
By designation for the chairwoman. Yeah. By designation.
Representative Brennan.
By designation.
Representative Davidson. Here. Representative Green.
Here.
Representative Genst. Here. Representative Howard. Here. Representative Inglis.
By designation.
Representative Kenyatta. Here. Representative Probst.
By designation.
Representative Sanchez.
By designation.
Representative Schusterman. Here. Representative Waxman. Here. Representative Webster.
Here.
Chair Roy.
Here.
Representative Banta.
Here.
Representative Barker. Here. Representative Bonner. Here. Representative Brown.
Here.
Representative Diamond.
Here.
Representative Fink.
Here.
Representative Kozak.
Here.
Representative Shalaba. Here. Representative Schaefer.
Here.
Representative Walsh. Here. And Representative Weeknecht. Here. We have a quorum.
Having established the presence of a quorum, the committee is in order to proceed with business. And Chairman Roy, would you like to make any introductory comments?
No, just other than I hope the chairwoman gets feeling better and can quickly rejoin us here. And but let's just get on with things.
We'll get on with it. And first on the agenda is House Bill 408. Is there a motion to consider the bill? From Representative Kenyatta. Okay, second from Representative Schusterman. Nick, would you explain the bill?
House Bill 408 provides a 10 to 20% cost of living or COLA adjustment based on the date of retirement for eligible public service, public school employees retirement system and state employee retirement system, so per PSERS and SERS pre-Act 9 retirees. And there is one amendment, A0077, which is a technical amendment, does not change the meaning of the bill or the impact of the bill, but it aligns the funding provisions for SERS with the established actuarial costs method within Title 71, which ensures fiscal consistency.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the amendment? A motion to bring up the amendment. And then we'll have a motion to. So we need a motion to bring up the amendment? Sure. So we have Representative Kenyatta, a second. And Representative Waxman. Thank you. Please explain the amendment. Yeah, you did. I know, but.
Yeah, so this is just a technical amendment, doesn't change the meaning of the underlying legislation, but these changes were requested by the Systems for Consistency.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Are there any other comments on the amendment? Seeing none, Chairman Roy?
I believe we're all going to be yes on the amendment. I don't believe there's any no's. Thank you.
All right. Are there any negative votes on the amendment? Seeing none, then the committee now moves to. So the amendment is accepted, and we'll now move on to consider House Bill 408 as amendment. So we need to start the process over one more time. And do I have a motion to consider the bill as amended? Thank Representative Genst. And the second, Representative Waxman. Thank you. Is there any discussion on the bill itself? Chairman Roy.
I didn't know of the prime sponsor wanted to speak on it first.
I don't believe the prime sponsor's here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill, I think it's probably well-intended, but it's not very, fiscally responsible. People need to understand that when it comes to a pension, they are funded decades ahead of time. And every paycheck, some of an employee's pay comes out, the school district pays, the government pays, depending where the person works, and there's a formula. It's years of service times the multiplier times the final average salary. That's what their pension is. And there's nothing in the Pennsylvania law that provides for COLAs. There's no funding for a COLA the way Pennsylvania does their pensions. Some states, the employees pay more every paycheck, and there's a built-in COLA. We don't do that in Pennsylvania. So it's not really a very fiscally prudent thing. So I think there's going to be some other members that have some comments, but it's just the pension system is an absolute train wreck of a mess. The state finances, we're on the verge of doing a budget that has $6 billion of more spending than revenue. We can't afford to put more money into anything. And I would urge members to vote no on the bill. Thank you.
Thanks. And so I'll make a couple of comments before we do call the roll. And that is simply that the individuals we're talking about acting in good faith have worked. I'm sorry, did you want to make comments? Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. I jumped the gun a little bit. I'll come back. Representative Diamond, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm disappointed that the prime sponsor is not here. Pensions are viewed legally as contracts between the state and as an employer and each public employee. In Pennsylvania, the constitutional law is very strict. The terms of that pension contract are locked in on day one of employment. No matter the hardship we have faced in funding our pension obligations, whether it's the enormous increases in property taxes, it's required to do that, the billions of dollars of additional annual costs we're paying each year above the normal cost, Pennsylvania has always met its contractual obligations to each and every public pensioner, both those retired and relying on those benefits and those just starting their careers who have accepted the terms of the pension contract. We haven't and could not change the terms of that contract even for a 19-year-old with a few months of employment or a 30-year-old with decades left to plan for retirement. Changes that most other states are allowed to make, and which many of them have. Yet here we are, with folks advocating and asking for us to change these contracts in the only direction they're allowed to go, more expensive for the state and the taxpayer. We're being asked to go above and beyond the benefits these employees agreed to by contract and work to earn because the cost of living has burdened these retirees. But the cost of living has burdened every single Pennsylvanian. And it's every single Pennsylvanian not on a public pension who will have to pay more in taxes to afford this benefit increase. We should recognize here that this legislation applies to what are called pre-Act 9 retirees. Referring to Act 9 of 2001, which enacted an enormous benefits increase, applied retroactively to all active employees at the time and responsible for a large share of our pension system's underfunding problems. All of that done at the demand of the same advocates who support this bill. Pennsylvania keeps meeting its contractual obligations to its public service retirees. And those retirees and their advocate groups keep coming to this building to seek benefits beyond those that they earned under their employment contracts. The law means that they can never really lose. The worst outcome is that they receive exactly the benefits they are entitled to by contract. The only loser here is the Pennsylvania taxpayer. Each time these advocates succeed in their goals in this building, the losers are the vast majority of taxpayers not receiving a CSRS or PSERS pension. Mr. Chairman, this bill came across, and I stood up on the floor and I talked about how these are contracts and how this is eventually going to cost tax increases for the vast majority of Pennsylvanians who do not participate in a public pension system. And for that reason, I will be a firm no on this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Brown.
Thank you, Chairman. And while I also appreciate the intentions of the bill's sponsor, my own father is a retired school teacher, so I can empathize with the intention. However, Pennsylvania's two major pension public funds continue to be seriously underfunded. A collected underfunded liability of around $60 billion. I just sat through 3 weeks of budget hearings on the Appropriations Committee. Our entire budget for the state of Pennsylvania is $45 billion. We're looking at $60 billion. It's just, it's unimaginable. So in fact, it's among the worst funding ratios in the country. Just in order to keep up with our current pension obligations, Pennsylvania contributes $7.5 billion in tax money annually to PSERS and CSRS in the pension systems. With over $5 billion of this being state funds, pension obligations take up to 10% of the state budget each year. I would firmly suggest a no vote. Thank you.
Representative Barger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will also be a no vote on this. Pennsylvania has something like 2.5 million retirees in the state, and most of those do not have a pension. And I agree with my colleagues who are pointing out not only that we have a contractual obligation with these pension holders that we are meeting, but there are very serious financial concerns. Can we afford this? One of my dear friends, who was an elder in my church, used to say we often confuse our wanters with our needers. And I think that's what we're doing here. We're confusing our wanters and our needers with this bill. But let's just assume for just one brief second that we do have the money. We don't, but let's just assume that we do. Why should we give this gift, this act of charity to pension holders and CSRS and PSERS and neglect the most disenfranchised and hurting Pennsylvanians among us, those who only live off of Social Security? They have no pension. Why would we first give money to this powerful and privileged class and ignore these who are less privileged, who live here in the state of Pennsylvania? Thousands and thousands of them live in my district. They have no pension. They will never receive anything more than Social Security. Why aren't they deserving? Why wouldn't we start there? Even if we do have the money, and even if there wasn't a contractual obligation, why wouldn't we start with the neediest? The reason I'm a no vote on this is because if we pass a cost of living allowance for this powerful and privileged class, we are sending a message to the poorest and weakest among us that there is, in fact, a power class, a privileged class that is absolutely willing to siphon funds from other necessary programs and put those funds into their pockets. There is a powerful class, there is a privileged class, and you are not one of them. You aren't one of them. You don't get to have this because you're not in the privileged class. So I'm a no vote, not only because we can't afford this, not only because this is not our contractual obligation, but because it's immoral to say to poor Americans, poor Pennsylvanians across this state, you don't get what we get because you're not powerful enough, you're not privileged enough, you don't have the PSEA fighting for you, so you get to get at the back of the line. So I would say that not only am I a no vote, but anybody who votes yes for this has forfeited any right to ever appeal to power and privilege as an argument ever again, because you're treading upon the least among us. I'm a no.
Representative Kenyatta.
So, for folks who are masochistic enough to watch a House State Government Committee meeting at 10:20, I'm going to spend all my time talking to you, because all of this that we do in this room is pomp and circumstance. People decided before they came in this room how they're going to vote. But I do want to be clear to folks who will watch this later. The folks who vote against this bill are not against COLAs. And they're not against COLAs because they protect the weak and the vulnerable. They're not against COLAs because they care about fiscal responsibility. In fact, everybody sitting in this room, when you get a little nameplate, do you know what you also get? You get a COLA. You get one every single year. And I have not seen a bill introduced yet where members give up their COLAs or go out, and some return them. And if you are somebody who's chattery, who returned them, go do a press conference about how you return them. But most members do not return them, and so they're not against COLAs. Most folks were not against getting a 7.8% COLA in 2022. They received it. They were happy to receive it. Most members were not against getting a 3.5% COLA in 2023. They received it. They weren't against getting one, again, for 3.5% in 2024. They weren't against the one we just got for 3.4%. And so if we want to talk about hypocrisy, it is hypocritical. Oh, golly, I'm getting so upset with these people. It is pure hypocrisy, rank hypocrisy, to sit in this room and say that teachers and bus drivers and people who cleaned our schools, state employees who bust their butts every single day, helping their fellow citizens, doing what they could as public servants, that they are somehow moochers who don't care about people in their community. I also remember, Mr. Chairman, sitting here pretty quietly as others spoke, and I'd like to continue my comments with that same deference. Thank you. The average person who's receiving a pension spent years of dedicated service to this Commonwealth because they believed in the common good, because they believed in something bigger than themselves. And they're not out to get rich. They are out to survive. And so we want to talk about fiscal responsibility. It's not fiscally responsible to have seniors who can barely afford to eat. And so what we end up doing is funding other programs that support these same seniors because they can't support themselves. People are not rolling in the dough getting a pension from PSERS or SERS. Just nonsense. Ridiculous nonsense to suggest it. These folks have not gotten a COLA in years. They deserve to get a COLA. And I will not sit here at 10 a.m. being lectured about hypocrisy from people who just got paid with a COLA. Give me a break and leave your sermonizing and your hypocrisy and all this other nonsense for somebody else. But I'm sick of hearing it, and I'm sick of us not doing right by these workers. I'm going to vote yes, and everybody who votes no has lost the moral high ground to talk about standing up for the least of these. And I don't know what church you go to, talked about wanters and needers. But I go to a church where we talk about caring about the least of these, giving a damn about people who can't afford to eat, caring about people who have unstable housing. And a lot of people who are asking for a pension have come here year after year after year, telling their stories about how they're barely getting by and would like us to do the right thing by them. And the last point I want to make is this. Employees contribute to their pension. They contribute to their pension. So this idea that we're just like a handout to them, they contribute to their pension. Those pension dollars are invested. And a part of the reason there's an issue with the pension is because previous iterations of the legislature did not do what we were supposed to do and make the proper investments into the pension. That's why we are where we are. And so it is not the fault of the workers who deserve an increase, who are desperate for an increase, to deal with the irresponsibility of previous iterations of this legislature. I'm a yes, and we ought to do the right thing by these workers. And I won't be lectured by folks receiving a COLA that others shouldn't.
Thank you, Representative. I will remind my colleagues to, in the protocol, to be careful about demeaning others and other representatives. They're here in the room with us. And with that, we'll turn to Representative Bonner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The state employee pension funds are in serious financial trouble. We currently have an unfunded liability of $60 billion. Currently, 10% of our state budget is dedicated to the public employee pension funds. Nationally, the rate of contribution by employers into private sector pensions is around 5% of the pension fund. Nationally, the public sector national average contribution rate is around 9%. However, in Pennsylvania, the employer contribution rates, both for PSERS and SERS, is around 34%. And until we can restore some fiscal sanity and responsibility to our state pension system, I unfortunately cannot support the legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Representative Schusterman.
Thank you, Chairman. Many of the people, young people, make a choice. They make a choice to work for their community, to work with children, to make children's lives better, to influence children. So basically, they're serving their community. They're not picking going to work for a big corporation that has a myriad of benefits. They're not choosing to run for office, where we have a myriad of benefits. They're choosing to touch the lives of children. And, you know, I want everyone to think, have you ever worked as a teacher? Have you ever spent a day with a teacher? Their day doesn't start when class starts. It starts many hours before, making sure certain children are able to attend clubs or musical performances and practices. And then they go and they help children get off buses. And then they go through their entire lesson plan all day. And then that's interrupted by, of course, recess and cafeteria. And then after school, they're once again there working with clubs, different athletic clubs, different drama clubs. And then they go home and they prepare for the next day. So they are really invested in us, in all of us, in my child, in your children. So they deserve just the most meager increase so they can afford certain things that cost more now, like eggs, like bread, like gas, so they can continue feeling like their service to our community counted. That's it. So I will be a yes vote. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. I do want to take a moment and recognize that Chairwoman Hill Evans and Representative Brennan have joined us virtually, and Representative Shalaba.
Thank you. As the wife of a public school teacher who's now on a second career as an accomplished attorney, the daughter of a private school teacher who was making, I think, $12,500 at the very start of it. Daughter of a public school teacher who recently passed away a little less than a year ago and did not have a COLA. I think that we need to stop acting like teaching is a terrible job. It's a wonderful job. It's a wonderful job. I don't think anybody by voting no on this today is saying that teachers don't matter. They matter. We all know they matter. That's reflected in the public school salary, which is leaps and bounds beyond what private school teachers are doing. Everybody should be working hard in their jobs. That's a wonderful career, and we encourage it. That said, we were lectured about hypocrisy. We should also be lectured about accuracy, because pensions and salaries are two different things.
Also should recognize that Representative Ben Sanchez has joined us virtually, and we'll turn to Representative Waxman.
Good morning. I'll be voting in favor of this bill. I just want to, so much has been said, but I want to just try to hit on a few points. First, the reason that we are doing this is to help retired public school employees, educators, people who work in classrooms and school buildings a little bit more each month. That's what this bill is about. Don't listen to the smoke and the mirrors and trying to create some kind of a claims of this is, a protected class and all of this. This is about helping retired public school educators get a little bit more each month in this times. And of course, this is something that we need to do because cost of living is going up. Inflation is going up. The stock market is going down. We are seeing policies at the federal level that are putting a major pinch on people's pockets all over this Commonwealth and all over this country. And so the idea that we here in Pennsylvania shouldn't take action to help our public school retirees while the federal government is lighting the economy on fire, I think that that is a ridiculous notion, okay? And I've heard people mention Social Security a few times in this room. We should be concerned about Social Security because it's under threat. Retirement security in this country is under threat. We should be doing everything that we can do to shore up our public pension system and support our public pensioners when we have someone in Washington like Elon Musk who wants to privatize Social Security, turn it over to Wall Street. So we have to protect our public school pensioners, and we have to make sure that the systems that we have placed to help people are robust. What you heard today in this meeting, it is just more of the same attacks on the public sector, attacks on public workers, attacks on government as a thing that can help people and that we should pay for to do things that are positive for our society. It is the same rhetoric that we are seeing from Washington, D.C. It's very disappointing, but not surprising to hear it here in Harrisburg. And so I'm a yes vote 100%, and I'm thankful to my colleagues who have before me raised a lot of the issues.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from my colleagues? We'll recognize Representative Diamond a second time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I generally don't speak a second time in committee, but with all due respect, I'm here to talk to my colleagues and not the cameras. My mind was not made up before I came to this meeting. That's why I expressed my disappointment that the prime sponsor is not here, because I'm a man of conviction, but I'm not stupid. If he has good reasons why we should do this, he should have been here to convince us. That's what this committee meeting's all about. Quite frankly, the statements that were earlier made about our COLAs, they're kind of true, but they're kind of false as well. In 2020, we canceled our COLAs because of COVID. And every single COLA canceling bill for legislators that has come up during my 10+ years of service, I have either voted for or co-sponsored. That is a law that went in effect in 1995. It was challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said it's absolutely constitutional. And later on, I believe it was 2007 or 2009, the Supreme Court then said that anyone who gets that COLA cannot refuse it. We cannot refuse it. I am not sure that anyone here who is complaining about legislative COLAs can express that same record that I have of voting against or voting for a COLA canceling bill for the legislature, except maybe in 2020, or co-sponsoring it. And I just want to finish with this. I had a spaghetti dinner the other night, and there was a young lady named Geraldine who came up, and she happened to be a babysitter of mine when I was an infant. And she handed me a note, and she asked me to please vote for this bill. And I quite understand the situation she's in, and I have empathy for it. But I told her, Geraldine, that was a contract. It was a contract. I will not throw shade on any other member of this committee, but I firmly believe that because this is a contract, we should not impair that contract whatsoever. Not on the pensioner or the person who's paying the bills, the taxpayer. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Also recognize Representative Kenyatta for a second time.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I speak twice in committees or not, so I don't want to be wrong on that. But I will say the gentleman from Lebanon County who said he came here to be convinced told Geraldine at the spaghetti dinner he was already voting against the bill. So I just want to highlight that, Geraldine, if you are watching, you did not babysit me, but I will be voting for your COLA, and girl, you deserve it. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you. Chairman Roy.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's actually a bill in this committee, House Bill 691, that would stop COLAs for legislators. So far, all the co-sponsors are Republicans. I would urge all committee members to co-sponsor that bill. Last session, House Bill 244 would have banned COLAs for legislators. All the co-sponsors were Republicans. It sat in this committee for about 20 months, never came up for a vote. But that is I'm one of the co-sponsors. I think we should do that. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about now, but somebody else brought that up. Now, in Pennsylvania, there are approximately 250,000 seniors that live in poverty. That's $15,000 a year for a one-person household, mostly widows, a few men, but widowers, but mostly widows. There's 250,000 seniors. Their only source of retirement income is Social Security. They're in poverty. This bill does not help those people, okay? It doesn't help them. None of the people in this bill are making $15,000 a year. None of those 250,000 people are covered because those people that this bill helps, they have Social Security, just like these 250,000 people in poverty, but they also have a CSRS pension or a PSERS pension. So they're making more like, $30,000 a year on average, which isn't a lot of money, but it's a heck of a lot more than $15,000 a year. So when we look at helping, the least amongst us, or however that goes, here's how you can think of it. If you think about your neighborhood. If you knew across the street, there's a house where there's an elderly woman, widow, and she only makes $15,000 a year, then right next door to her, there's another elderly widow that makes $30,000 a year, and you're going to take taxpayer money to help out one of those households. Which one would you help out? The one making $15,000 or the one making $30,000? This bill helps the household that's making $30,000 a year. So we're helping the people that least need the help. 100% of the people that get a CSRS pension or a PSERS pension also get Social Security. 100%. My office, like a lot of your offices, we helped people do property tax rent rebate forms, and every single time, I wasn't there for all of them because we were down here for meetings and stuff, but every single person that I was trying to help that have a CSRS pension or a PSERS pension, they didn't qualify for the property tax rent rebate because they made too much money. Most of the people that qualified only have Social Security. So we have to look at public policy. When it comes to the SNAP benefit program, we don't say, well, if you make $50,000 a year or more, your family qualifies for SNAP, but if you only make $10,000 a year, you don't qualify for SNAP. We don't do that. Anytime the state spends money, we usually try to help the poorest amongst us. So I just think it's an important thing for people to know that 0 of the people, the most impoverished seniors in Pennsylvania, 0 of them will be helped by this bill because they don't get CSRS or PSERS pensions. Now, something else I also want to bring up is nothing against anybody, but a lot of people that we're talking about, they retired when they were age 50 or age 57. A lot of the state employees, just the different types of jobs they have, including legislators, have a relatively young retirement age. A lot of state employees, a lot of school employees retire at 35 years, so they're about 57. Legislators can retire at 50. Correction officers, 50. There's different classifications of employees, and the laws have changed over the time. But my point is, most of our constituents, they work until they're 65 or 70 before they can afford to retire. And a lot of our constituents that are retirement age, they're still working. They're paying a 3.07% Pennsylvania personal income tax on the job they have just to get by. And I just want to remind everybody, pensions are 100% tax-free in Pennsylvania. So if somebody's receiving a CSRS or a PSERS pension, $20,000 a year, 0 PA personal income tax. Their next door neighbor that's working someplace in retirement, part-time, making $20,000 a year, they're paying 3.07% personal income tax on that money. So that's something that just needs to be considered. And one final thing I want to say is, following up on what Representative Diamond was saying, these are legally binding contracts. Your very first day at work, there's all that paperwork you fill out. Every single person that's in the pension plan, they agreed that they were going to put money from their paycheck into the pension. The formula, years of service times the multiplier times final average salary equals their pension. That's what people have always received. Now, it would be like if you went to the bank and you got a CD for 4% interest, and then say it's a 12-month CD. You go back a year later and you say, say it was $1,000, so you'd be getting $40 in interest. You go back a year later and say, I'm here for my $50. And the bank would say, wait a second. There's a legally binding contract, 4% interest. We owe you $40. And then you say, well, yeah, but my neighbor came in here a week after I was in here, and you gave them a 5% CD, so I demand a 5% CD. You can't do that. It's a legally binding contract. You can't give somebody more than what the contract says, and you can't give them less than what the contract says. And this whole notion that people that vote no on this bill, hate teachers and hate state employees is just ridiculous. We're protecting the taxpayers. The budget proposal spends $6 billion more than we're going to take in. That's a lot of deficit spending. This proposal raises school property taxes. The only way school districts can pay for this, for the part that school districts have to pay for, is by raising school property taxes. In some districts, that's kind of a big deal. Property taxes, especially school property taxes, are a big deal. This bill is so expensive. The way it's written, the cost, there's no way to pay for it except to divide it out over a 10-year period. It's so expensive, the bill requires that it be paid for over 10 years. That shows you how expensive it is. In the school districts, they're going to have to raise property taxes, and with that money they get, they can pay the higher employer contribution rate. So if you want to ignore the 250,000 seniors in Pennsylvania that are living in poverty that won't be helped by this bill, if you want to raise school property taxes, if you want to add to the $6 billion deficit in the new fiscal year, vote yes on the bill. If you want to stand up for taxpayers and stand up for legally binding contracts and stand up for some fiscal responsibility and fairness to all taxpayers, vote no. I'm voting no. I encourage all the members to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple more comments, and then we'll have a roll call. As I listen to the debate here, a couple pieces are missing that I would like to add. and that is there are other roles in government for the anti-poverty programs, and we might want to think about how we help those that are living on $12,000 or $15,000 a year, and that is a role of the a state government and a federal government in a sound fiscal democracy. Aside from that, there are some discussions ongoing in this in the debate this morning around what is the relationship between an employer and a benefit package. Compensation to a school teacher in that contract would include salary that's lower than average because of the benefits on the other side that are expected. And lastly, I'll point out that the bigger distinction between this scenario and an anti-poverty scenario is that the state, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, is the employer for these teachers when it was all started. And as has been recognized here, we have a deficit in the contributions to the PSERS and SERS programs because the employer didn't pay its share. So when you hear that calculation of a multiplier and all of those other things, the problem in the pension system is that the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania has failed its side of the payment in, which would then make a robust retirement system and the financial part of the COLA resonate today without further government action. So we've got a scenario here where well-meaning people, teachers, people we care about in the community, did their side. They came to work every day, they paid in, and the government of Pennsylvania did not. And so that's the argument that says we are in arrears and maybe we should catch up. And as been noted as well, this distinction of a percentage increase isn't a whole lot of money for each of one of those teachers. It's to recognize all the teachers that are pre-Act 9, they're in that scenario, who gave their all to our children and have sat there without a COLA for over 20 years. So having said all of that, Sonia, would you please call the roll?
Chairwoman Hill Evans,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Boyd,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Brennan,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Davidson,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Green,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Genst, Representative Howard, Representative Inglis,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Kenyatta, Representative Probst,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Sanchez,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Schusterman,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Waxman,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Webster,
Yes.
Chair Roy,
No.
Representative Banta, Representative Barger, Representative Bonner, Representative Brown, Representative Diamond, Representative Fink,
No.
Representative Kozak, Representative Shalaba, Representative Schaefer,
No.
Representative Walsh, Representative Weeknecht. Motion passes.
Yeah, okay. The bill has passed, and House Bill 408 will be reported as amendment from the House State Government Committee. Thank you. Next on our agenda is House Bill 411, Representative Malagari. And House Bill 411, I'll speak just very briefly, is identical in language to House Bill 408 and the debate that we just had here in committee, with the distinction that the percentages of the COLA increase change to 15 to 24.5%. So that's the small distinction. We also have Amendment 0078 from Chairwoman Hill Evans identical amendment to the one we just passed for House Bill 408 that provides consistency in class benefit recipient clarifications. So we'll proceed sort of parliamentary-wise on the amendment, and then if there are further discussions, we'll allow that. But these are identical bills. Yep. So first, we'll have a motion to bring up the bill for consideration. Representative Kenyatta. Representative Gantz as a second. Amendment A0078, Chairwoman Hill Evans. We need a motion to bring up the amendment, please. Representative Kenyatta. We'll do that. And Representative Gantz. I will say for the record, there are numerous other committee meetings ongoing at the same time. So for those who are watching and realize that there aren't a lot of representatives present, they're here virtually as well, but there are other committee meetings ongoing at the same time. So on the amendment, are there any negative votes? Seeing none, the bill is amended, and we'll then have a motion to reconsider House Bill 411 as amended. Okay, Kenyatta will be first, and I should have switched the order here, but I didn't. And Representative Gantz will second. Oh, I can make the motion, okay. Okay, absolutely. Is there any discussion on the bill as amended? This is a separate bill, so you may speak a first time on this bill, right? As we're teasing. Representative, Chairman Roy, if you, I'm sorry. We'll hold fire for Representative Schaefer.
Sorry. Yes, I appreciate the intention of these bills. I spent a lot of time at the municipal level dealing with municipal pension plans, and there's a lot of hardworking people in our townships, boroughs, and cities that also have varying pensions at varying funding rates, and that either do or do not have annual cost increases in them. Speaking from my own experience, I know that the township that I used to represent, very proud of the fact that we had our pension plans were some of the best in the state. Depending on what class of employee you were, though, some of those pension plans did not have COLAs embedded in them, and other ones did have COLAs embedded in them. Having spent many hours in terms of how the township funds those pension plans, the funding formulas are very different from a pension plan that includes a COLA or does not include a COLA. And I think at the state level, if we do intend for CSRS and PSRS to have COLAs in them, then for new employees, if we want to make that promise, then we need to increase the funding that goes into them. But to increase the benefits without increasing the funding simply worsens the deficit, especially when you do it after the fact. So from a simple mathematical perspective, while I appreciate the intent of these, the time to include a COLA would have been at the initiation of the pension, and then the funding contribution rates would be different from both the employer and the employee perspective in order to have that benefit.
Thank you. The maker of the bill, Representative Malagari, has joined us, and sir, if you'll come to the front and make a few comments. And
thank you.
Welcome.
Chairman. Appreciate you allowing me to be here to speak on this. So before you, House Bill 411, we did this last session asking for a cost of living adjustment for our CSRS and PSRS members who haven't had a cost of living adjustment in over 20 years now. That was in 2001. Now it's 2025. So each year the pool of individuals gets smaller as people pass away. At the same rate, cost of living continues to rise, and the ability to pay for life and all the things that come with it in retirement gets more difficult. Medication, food, transportation, et cetera. So this would allow for those pre-Act 9 retirees to have that cost of living adjustment that they've been waiting for well over 20 years. So I'm not going to belabor the point. I do want to ask for your support on this and appreciate your support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Chairman Roy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is very similar to the prior bill, except it's more expensive. So hopefully the debate will be shorter on this bill, but this bill's more expensive than the prior bill. This bill would require a higher school property tax increase than the prior bill. This bill would cause the unfunded pension liability to increase more than it would have in the prior bill. And this bill also does not help the 250,000 impoverished seniors in Pennsylvania that make about $15,000 a year or less. This bill, like the last bill, does help the people that make around $30,000 a year, and the amount of money that they have, it widens the gap between the most impoverished seniors. Like the last bill, you know, if you think about it, these people making $15,000 a year on Social Security only, the bill doesn't help them. Retirees from CSRS and PSRS that retired, you know, back before 2001, they're making around $30,000 a year, Social Security and their pension. The last bill, they might have gone up to, you know, $32,000 a year. Under this bill, they might go up to $33,000 a year, $34,000 a year, something like that. So it widens the gap. So not only do we leave people behind that only get Social Security, we're widening the gap. We're helping the wrong people. And I just can't get through my head how if I look across the street and there's an elderly widow making $15,000 a year, we're not going to help her. Her next door neighbor makes $30,000 a year. We're going to give her more money. But then under this bill, we're going to add to that and give them even more, completely ignoring the other person. And to do that, we're going to have deficit spending, a school property tax increase. We're going to add to the $6 billion unfunded, excuse me, the $6 billion of deficit spending in this year's budget proposal. So this bill, I can cut it off right here. Everything everybody said about the first bill being opposed to it, this bill's even worse than the prior bill. So I urge people to vote even more vigorously a no vote than they did the bill before. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we've had a very healthy debate this morning on these bills, and a lot has been said. I'll conclude, you know, that the unfortunate part of how long this has taken the employer, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, means that while it was not intended, you know, the retirement system necessarily just for senior citizens, but they're all senior citizens now because we haven't increased that retirement system. And so this is the opportunity we have to help each and every one of those individuals who gave their all, their side of the contractual arrangement during their service to our children, to our communities, and the opportunity in front of us to move Representative Malagari's bill and help them with the same recognition that we would deserve if we're standing in front of one of our elementary schools right now and recognizing those teachers that will eventually benefit from this as well. Having said all of that, Sonia, would you please take the roll, please?
Chairwoman Hale Evans,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Boyd,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Brennan,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Davidson,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Green,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Genst, Representative Howard, Representative Inglis,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Kenyatta, Representative Probst,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Sanchez,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Schusterman,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Waxman,
Yes, by designation.
Representative Webster,
Yes.
Chair Roy,
No.
Representative Banta, Representative Barger,
A more vigorous no.
Representative Bonner, Representative Brown, Representative Diamond, Representative Fink?
No.
Representative Kozak? No. Representative Shalaba?
No by designation.
Representative Schaefer?
No.
Representative Walsh? No. Representative Weeknecht? No. The motion passes.
Having passed, House Bill 411 is reported as amended from the House State Government Committee. Thanks to the sponsor. And Representative Carroll, please come forward. I thank you for your patience while this has been going on. So we're going to start with House Resolution 86, designating March 17th, 2025 as Bayard Rustin Day in Pennsylvania. Do I have, comments?
Yeah, first I want to say thank you to the chairman and also to the committee for having the opportunity to come before you today. I propose this resolution as Bayard Rustin is a Pennsylvanian. He's from Westchester, Pennsylvania, and has never been recognized by his home state for his contribution to this country. He was the architect of the 1963 March on Washington, and listening to the comments today and the dialogue, I think it's meaningful to have opportunity to uplift a person who fought for fair wages and making sure that we represent all Americans. So I come before you today to ask for your support to mark today as Bayard Rustin Day, which is also his birthday, and give the opportunity to uplift a Pennsylvanian. I believe it's the right thing to do. So I'm here for questions and asking for your support today.
First thing we need to do is have a motion to adopt the resolution. Representative Gens, seconded by Representative. I'm sorry. Resolution. The first motion is to consider the resolution. Representative Gens and Representative Kenyatta as second. We've heard from the prime sponsor. Are there any discussions on the resolution? I think we wore out our discussion earlier, but that's a good sign for Bayard Rustin as well. Yes, okay, we will need a roll call vote. Chairman Roy, do you want to make any comments?
No, other than I think we need to do a roll call vote, and I think some members will be yes and some will be no. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to do that. Sonia, will you call the roll, please?
Chairwoman Hill Evans?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Boyd?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Brennan?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Davidson?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Green?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Genst? Representative Howard? Yes. Representative Inglis?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Kenyatta? Yes. Representative Probst?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Sanchez?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Schusterman?
Yes, by designation.
Representative Waxman?
Yes, by designation.
And Representative Webster?
Yes.
Chair Roy?
Yes.
Representative Banta?
Yes by designation.
Representative Barger?
Okay. No by designation.
Representative Bonner? Yes. Representative Brown? Yes. Representative Diamond? Yes. Representative Fink?
No.
Representative Kozak?
Yes by designation.
Representative Shalaba?
Yes by designation.
Representative Schaefer?
Yes by designation.
Representative Walsh?
Yes by designation.
Representative Weeknecht?
Yes by designation.
The motion passes.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
House Resolution 86 is reported from the House State Government Committee, and we'll move on the agenda. There are two left, very quickly. House Resolution 69, Chairwoman Hill Evans, recognizes the month of March 2025 as Women's History Month in Pennsylvania. Do we have a motion to consider the resolution? Representative Kenyatta? Representative Genst, thank you. Are there any comments on the resolution? Seeing none, we'll have, Sonia, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairwoman Hill Evans?
Yes by designation.
Representative Boyd,
Yes by designation.
Representative Brennan,
Yes by designation.
Representative Davidson,
Yes by designation.
Representative Green,
Yes by designation.
Representative Genst, Representative Howard, Representative Inglis,
Yes by designation.
Representative Kenyatta, Representative Probst,
Yes by designation.
Representative Sanchez,
Yes by designation.
Representative Schusterman,
Yes by designation.
Representative Waxman,
Yes by designation.
Representative Webster,
Yes.
Chair Roy,
Yes.
Representative Banta,
Yes by designation.
Representative Barger,
No by designation.
Representative Bonner,
Yes. Oh, Tim's still here.
Representative Brown, Representative Diamond, Representative Fink,
No.
Representative Kozak,
Yes by designation.
Representative Shalaba,
Yes by designation.
Representative Schaefer,
Yes by designation.
Representative Walsh,
Yes by designation.
Representative Weeknecht.
Yes by designation.
The motion passes.
Motion passes, and House Resolution 69 is reported as committed from the House State Government Committee. Yeah, so one last bit of business. House Resolution 25, Representative Cerisi. We need a motion. We're going to re-refer the bill to the Tourism Committee. Could you describe the resolution quickly?
This establishes the PA State Song Commission to study the history of the state song of the Commonwealth, solicits missions for the new state song, and recommend changes to the state song.
So I have a motion to consider the referral. Representative Genst? Representative Harrell? Is there any discussion on, yes, Chairman Roy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my understanding that Representative Diamond was going to sing his proposal for the new state song if the bill remained in this committee. It's being referred, so that doesn't happen. So I urge everybody to vote yes.
Are there any, seeing none? Are there any negative votes? Seeing none, the resolution will be re-referred to the Tourism Committee. And I think that's the end of our agenda here. I will note quickly that on St. Patty's Day, for all the green in the room, there is one above us who has more green than the others. Thank you. We are adjourned.